Hey everybody, I'm John Rourke, Editor-in-Chief of Phoenix Home and Garden Magazine. We're here at the Arizona Fine Art Expo, and we are now talking with Scott Rispin. Hi, Scott.
How you doing, John?
Good, thank you. So we were just talking about your method and your madness. So acrylics and oils.
Correct.
You start with acrylics, you build up from there. Tell us about that process.
Yeah.
And this one is kind of midway, correct?
It's mostly done.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
as you can see from the other ones,
Yes.
it's kind of a more subdued color palette, not quite all crazy, and
Okay.
and there's actually a lot going on, but not as much as the ones we
Okay.
just looked
Yeah,
at, right?
well, right.
But yeah, the texture is something that's always interested me. I was trying to push it, see what I'm able to accomplish with it. It has a certain effect on the viewer, and then
Right.
of course on me as a painter.
Sure.
Just nothing better than mixing up a whole bunch of stuff and just laying it on there.
So are you like slathering it on there and carving out? How do you, where does this negative area
The
come from?
underpainting
Okay.
has pretty much all these shapes painted in a color that's kind of sort of where I think I want it
Okay.
to end up. And then I just take this stuff and lump it in there and shape it all around, shape by shape by shape.
Wow.
And then just build it up,
Okay.
layer by layer by layer.
Okay, so you're starting with acrylic.
Acrylic, yeah, acrylic
You start
paints
with the
and
flat
heavy gel
canvas.
medium.
Is
Yeah,
that acrylic before you start building up?
yeah. My
Okay.
underpainting I usually do in acrylic also.
Acrylic. Okay,
Yeah.
and then you're starting to do all this textural work, and then if we step over here, we can see kind of like the next evolution, and this is where oils have been added. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the color you're seeing is actual oil paint.
Okay.
The acrylic underpainting and the layers, some of that color still shows through where I think it should,
Right.
but most of it's oil paint over the top. There's just still something about oil paint that the luscious, gorgeous
Right.
glow of it. You just can't. I'm an oil painter, so
So can you get those intense colors with acrylic, or are acrylics more muted?
no, you can for
Okay.
sure. And then I think some people's criticism of acrylic is some of them are too bright and too
Oh, okay.
plasticky.
All right.
There's something on, but with the way the art materials market is, you can get about any effect you want with any materials you want to use.
Okay.
It's just
So
like
it's just a
anything
matter
else.
of preference of what you...
And then practice, see
Okay.
what you can do with it.
All right. And so you, if I recall correctly, you originally from California.
Correct?
Then you went to Pennsylvania for a big, long
30
swath of
years,
time.
yeah, yeah.
And these were inspired by Pennsylvania landscape.
Well, I was
correct?
back there this summer, and I went and did some paintings on location, and then took a whole bunch of photographs, and came home and started drawing those out and
Okay.
painting those in.
And we were talking a few minutes ago about just that level of detail and how I don't know how you don't get lost. Do you?
Well, and as I started to say, you do sometimes. That's the importance really of the underpainting. And like, I don't really spend very much time making a complete thorough drawing first,
Okay.
but I will draw it on the canvas, and that takes so long
Right.
because you're trying to figure that out and from the very first step.
And so is that like a line drawing, almost like a paint by number, how those used to be?
It can be. For these, I took actually acrylic ink in these
Oh.
brush pens
Okay.
that you load a reservoir, and as you can draw and paint essentially at the same time.
Okay.
So that's how that underpainting went here.
Okay.
And then once I do that, and I think I got it where I want, it's really helpful for me to take a couple pictures to keep from getting lost
There you go.
as I keep moving through it.
So you take a picture of it in progress, step back, look at it kind of in a
Yep.
different format. Okay, that makes sense.
And sometimes, I might have had some of these areas twice as many little vines, let's
Right.
say. I had too many, cover them up.
Okay.
Or sometimes I've got them covered with texture. I need a couple more vines, and I have to carve them out, which is not an easy thing to do. But
I'm grappling with words to try to understand how you can do what you do, but yeah, obviously you do it very well. So you're here, this is your 4th year
Yeah.
at the Expo?
Yep,
Okay.
very good, yeah.
And what about the southwestern landscape inspires you?
tons of it. There's one right behind you. That's up at Lake Powell, right just past the dam as you're loading into the little boat rides on the Colorado River.
Okay.
Yeah, I just looked across the gorge there, and there was that crazy weird canyon patina. So
Right.
figured I got to make a painting of it.
And thank you for doing that. Is the color palette different here than it is elsewhere in the
Yeah,
country?
the light's different. I mean, there's so much is different about it.
Yeah, and especially like sunsets and like
Right.
dusk. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it changes differently. It gets darker earlier here, and then the light changes pretty quickly. It does everywhere, but here it changes, and it actually makes really interesting, gorgeous colors that you wouldn't see probably at 1 o'clock if you're outside
definitely.
painting. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it's beautiful, and so most of the stuff on the other two walls is from this general area,
Okay.
or the west generally. In fact, this one, that's just from the Phoenix Botanical Gardens.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Yeah, and we've got the like the prickly pears here.
Yeah, this wasn't in the original. It's near sunset, so I'm taking pictures because I don't have time to make a painting.
Sure.
So I'm taking 300 pictures that
Right.
night. And so this, and it had, but down here was just a bunch of twigs and stuff. You couldn't see it. So I stole this from several of my other pictures and plugged it in back there
okay.
to make.
So you're just doing kind of some selective editing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's building an image.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the primary focus, and the things that are happening with the spatial issues with the sky coming forward and stuff. But that's got to be equally as interesting.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Because your eye can land anywhere. So.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is have the eye be bored somewhere.
Right. I love this painting except
lost.
for that part.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So all of these are from the basic area, Grand Canyon, here in the Phoenix and up in Prescott and Flagstaff area.
Okay.
That one's from the big San Jacinto Mountain near Palm Springs.
Wow. Just do you have collectors from all over the country, all over the world?
I'm just starting to
Okay.
get people interested in, and I guess collecting my stuff here.
Okay.
When I went back to Pennsylvania this summer, I brought 15 paintings, and everybody wanted them.
Fantastic.
Because I was there so long and they know me. But
Right.
So I'm really, working hard to get myself noticed here, and it's coming along really great. There's not a better place for it than here.
It's fantastic. Is there any commonality in the type of people who collect you? Is there an age demographic? Is it all over the board?
It's all over the board.
Okay.
4 years ago, the very first painting I was ever purchased from my booth, the second day of the show, was by a very, very young couple.
Yeah.
And it looked like they were just walking through with their friends for giggles.
Right.
And they talked and asked, and they said, "Okay, I want that one." And I was kind of didn't know how to ask.
Sure.
Okay, you can have it. Let's go. Let's do it.
Right.
So it doesn't seem to really have a definitive pigeonhole where you can put them in.
Right.
Yeah.
I find that the fine art that I've purchased, it's usually that you see it and then you're drawn in, and then you can't forget it, or you can't look away, and then it's like
And yeah, I tell everybody, you buy what you love.
Exactly.
And so, collectors' collections quite often are quite eclectic. Mm-hmm. Because you don't know why. It's not what I normally have in my house, but oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I get a lot of that too. You can see some of these colors are a little much for some people's homes. So
they could be, right, exactly. But
I mean, that's what happens. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a place for it, but I can make a place for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I have to have this. I'll worry about the rest later. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, that's the way it should be.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what art is all about.
It's the most fun too.
Exactly. So once again, we're here at the Arizona Fine Art Expo, which is going through March 24th. Buy a ticket, and then you can come back as many times as you want. And most of the artists here recommend that you don't try to just see it all in one day.
Right. It's very difficult.
Okay.
If you really are wanting to walk through and pay attention,
right?
It's a several-hour prospect.
Okay.
So come in, spend a couple hours, have some lunch or whatever, come back a couple days later or the next weekend or whatever it is, go through it again. We get a surprising number of those visitors to do that.
I think that's the smart way to do it. And we were here last time in the kind of like the twilight, and now we're here, it's like mid-afternoon, and it's an entirely different
Looks completely different, doesn't it?
Yeah. As
it starts to get darker, or when we come here and start rocking and rolling at 10 a.m., it's a very different look in the tent.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, once again, we're here at the Fine Art Expo, here through March 24th. Talking with Scott Rispin. You'll be doing paintings here?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've got a whole stack of them at home, bringing one at a time in to
Okay.
finish them up here in the.
We love that. So yeah, come in, meet Scott, meet the other artists, see them at work, ask questions. There's no stupid questions. I would have asked them if there had been, but it's fun to interact with the artists, see how they do, what inspires them, see them at their craft. It's just a fascinating experience. So come down here, Arizona Fine Art Expo, through March 24th.